The silver ship fell through the sky like a dying star. Princess Lyrelay gripped her command chair as the vessel shook violently. Red warning lights flashed across the bridge of the Zephyrian stealth craft. "Navigation systems are down," shouted her pilot, his forearms dancing across the control panels. "The quantum drive is failing." Lyrelay's purple skin turned pale blue with fear. She was the heir to the mighty Zephyrian Empire, daughter of Emperor Valdris who ruled over 1,000 worlds. Today was supposed to be a simple diplomatic mission to the neutral zone between human and Zephyrian space. Nothing dangerous. Nothing difficult. But space had other plans. Emergency landing protocols. Lyrelay commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Find us a safe planet." The pilot's large eyes widened as he scanned the nearby systems. "Princess, the only habitable world nearby is—" "It's a human colony." Lyrelay's mind raced. Humans and Zephyrians were not enemies anymore, but they were not friends either. After decades of Cold War, they had signed a peace treaty only 5 years ago. Most Zephyrians still thought humans were primitive creatures who barely deserved to travel among the stars. "We have no choice," she decided. "Take us down." The ship screamed through the atmosphere of the small world called Haven's Rest. The hull glowed red-hot as they crashed through clouds. Trees and mountains rushed past the viewing screen. The pilot fought with the controls, trying to find a clear landing spot. "Brace for impact!" he yelled. The ship hit the ground like a meteor. Metal screamed and twisted. The lights went out. Then everything was silent. Sergeant Marcus Chen was walking the outer perimeter of the human settlement when he saw the fireball streak across the morning sky. He stopped and shaded his eyes with his hand, watching the object crash into the forest about 2 miles away. Marcus was 28 years old with short black hair and kind brown eyes. He had served as a garrison soldier on Haven's Rest for 3 years. It was usually quiet duty. The planet had only 10,000 human colonists and they rarely had problems. But a crashing spaceship was definitely a problem. Marcus activated his communication device. "Command, this is Chen. I've got a spacecraft down in Sector 7. Requesting permission to investigate." "Copy that, Chen," came the reply from his commander. "Be careful. Could be pirates or raiders." Marcus checked his equipment, medical kit, emergency supplies, and his service rifle. He was trained as a field medic as well as a soldier. If someone was hurt in that crash, they would need help fast. He climbed on his hoverbike and raced toward the crash site. The forest was thick with tall blue trees that grew only on Haven's Rest. Strange bird-like creatures with crystal wings flew between the branches, singing songs that sounded like wind chimes. The crashed ship was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It was made of some kind of silver metal that seemed to shift colors in the light. The hull was cracked open like a broken egg. Smoke rose from the wreckage. Marcus approached carefully, his rifle ready. But when he got closer, he could hear something that made his heart race. Someone was crying for help. The voice was speaking in a language he didn't understand, but pain sounded the same in any tongue. Marcus climbed through a hole in the ship's hull. Inside was a maze of twisted metal and sparking electronics. The technology was far more advanced than anything humans had built. This was definitely an alien vessel. He followed the sound of the voice deeper into the wreckage. In what looked like the command center, he found 2 figures trapped under a fallen beam. One was clearly dead, a tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms. But the other was still alive, though badly injured. This alien had smooth purple skin and was wearing what looked like royal clothing made of shimmering fabric. Long silver hair fell across a face that was beautiful despite being covered in blue blood. Marcus had never seen a Zephyrian before, but he recognized the species from military briefings. Their empire controlled much of the galaxy. This one wore jewelry and clothing that suggested high rank, maybe even royalty. The alien's large violet eyes focused on Marcus. She spoke in accented but clear English. "Please, help me." Marcus didn't hesitate. His training kicked in. "Injured person first, questions later. I'm going to get you out of there," he said, setting down his rifle. "What's your name?" "Lyrelay," she whispered. "Princess Lyrelay of the Zephyrian Empire." A princess. Marcus had just found alien royalty crashed on his planet. This was going to cause serious diplomatic problems. But right now she was just someone who needed medical help. He used his emergency tools to lift the metal beam off her legs. Princess Lyrelay cried out in pain as he pulled her free. Her left leg was bent at a wrong angle, definitely broken. She also had deep cuts across her arms and side. Your blood is blue, Marcus observed as he opened his medical kit. I don't know alien biology, but bleeding is bleeding. I need to stop these cuts first. He worked quickly, using pressure bandages to stop the worst bleeding. Lyrelei watched him with curious eyes. Why are you helping me? She asked. Your people and mine. We are not allies. Marcus looked up from his work. Because you're hurt and I'm a medic. That's all that matters right now. He splinted her broken leg using pieces of metal from the ship. His human medical supplies were designed for human biology, but he had to try. The princess was getting weaker from blood loss. We need to get you out of here, Marcus said. Can you walk at all? Lyrelei tried to stand but collapsed immediately. No, I cannot. Marcus made a decision. He lifted the alien princess in his arms, surprised at how light she was. Her technology might be more advanced, but Zephyrians seemed physically more delicate than humans. My ship, Lyrelei protested weakly. The data cores. They must not fall into wrong hands. First we keep you alive, Marcus said firmly. Then we worry about your ship. As he carried her away from the wreckage, Marcus heard a sound that made his blood run cold. The howl of a razor wolf. The native predators of Haven's Rest were dangerous even to armed humans. They hunted in packs and could smell blood from miles away. More howls answered the first. The pack was coming. Marcus activated his emergency beacon as he ran toward his hoverbike. Command, this is Chen. I need immediate medical evacuation at my location. I have a critically injured Zephyrian royal, and we've got razor wolves incoming. Princess Lyrelei's eyes widened. Razor wolves? Local predators, Marcus explained as he secured her on the back of his bike. Very angry, very hungry, and heading this way. The howls were getting closer. Marcus started the hoverbike and raced through the forest, the injured princess holding on to him as they fled toward safety. Behind them, the first razor wolves reached the crash site and began howling in frustration at the lost prey. This simple rescue was about to change everything between two species who barely trusted each other. But Marcus Chen was just focused on one thing, keeping Princess Lyrelei alive long enough to get her proper medical help. The real adventure was just beginning. Marcus Chen raced through the forest on his hoverbike, Princess Lyrelei clinging weakly to his back. The razor wolves' howls echoed behind them, getting closer with each passing moment. The alien princess was losing too much blood, and her breathing was becoming shallow. There's a cave system ahead, Marcus shouted over the wind. We can hide there until help arrives. Lyrelei's grip on him loosened. I cannot hold on much longer. Marcus felt her weight shift and quickly steered the bike to a stop near a rocky outcropping. He caught the princess as she started to fall, her violet eyes fluttering closed. Stay with me, he urged, checking her pulse. Her heart was beating too fast, a sign of shock in most species. We're almost safe. He carried her into a shallow cave and quickly set up his emergency shelter, a simple but effective human design that used body heat and reflected materials to create a warm, hidden space. As he worked, Marcus could hear the razor wolves getting closer to their location. Your people will come for me, Lyrelei whispered weakly. They will think you captured me. Marcus paused in his work. She was right. When Zephyrian ships arrived, they would see a human soldier with their injured princess and assume the worst. Then we'll explain what really happened, he said simply, continuing to treat her wounds, but Lyrelei shook her head. You do not understand. My people believe humans are primitive, violent. They will not listen to explanations. Marcus used his field medical scanner on her injuries. The device wasn't designed for alien biology, but it gave him basic information. Her leg was definitely broken and she had internal bleeding that his supplies couldn't treat properly. I need to contact your ship, Marcus said. You need medical care I can't provide. My ship is destroyed, Lyrelei replied sadly. But there are others. My escort vessels were following at a distance. They will have detected the crash. As if summoned by her words, the sound of powerful engines filled the air. Marcus stepped outside the cave and saw 3 sleek Zephyrian warships descending from the clouds. They were beautiful and terrifying, like silver arrows that could slice through space itself. Marcus activated his communication device and set it to broadcast on all frequencies. Zephyrian vessels, this is Sergeant Marcus Chen of the Haven's Rest garrison. I have Princess Lyrelei with me. She is injured but alive, requesting medical assistance. The response was immediate and hostile. Human soldier, release our princess immediately or face the consequences. I'm trying to help her, Marcus protested. She's badly hurt and needs... Energy beams suddenly struck the ground around the cave entrance. Marcus dove back inside as rocks exploded where he had been standing. They're shooting at me, he told Lyrelei in disbelief. The princess struggled to sit up. Give me your communication device. Marcus handed it over and Lyrelei spoke in her own language, a musical series of sounds that reminded Marcus of singing crystals. Her voice was weak but commanding. The shooting stopped. I told them to cease fire, she explained. You saved my life. They will not harm you now. Marcus helped her outside as the Zephyrian ships landed. Tall, elegant aliens in advanced armor emerged from the vessels. Their leader, a stern-faced male with dark purple skin and silver markings, approached with weapons ready. Princess, he said in accented English. Are you hurt? What did this human do to you? Commander Vex, Lyrelei replied firmly. Sergeant Chen saved my life. Without his help, I would be dead. Commander Vex looked at Marcus with obvious suspicion. Impossible. Humans lack the knowledge to treat Zephyrian injuries. Marcus bristled at the dismissive tone. I may not know alien biology, but I know how to stop bleeding and treat shock. Medical basics work for most species. Silence, Vex commanded. You will not speak unless... He will speak, Lyrelei interrupted, her royal authority clear despite her weakness. And you will listen with respect. This human risked his life to save mine. Vex looked confused. In his worldview, humans were barely evolved creatures who solved problems with violence. The idea that one had successfully treated a Zephyrian royal using primitive medical techniques challenged everything he believed. Two Zephyrian medics approached with advanced healing devices. As they scanned Lyrelei, their expressions grew surprised. Princess, one said, the human's treatment was adequate. He stopped the bleeding and prevented shock. His techniques are crude but effective. Commander Vex frowned. Prepare for immediate departure. We must return the princess to proper medical facilities. But as the medics prepared their equipment, the sky began to change. Dark clouds gathered with unnatural speed and the air crackled with electricity. Marcus looked up with concern. That's not good. We're about to get hit with an electromagnetic storm. What is this electromagnetic storm? Vex demanded. Haven's Rest has unusual magnetic fields, Marcus explained quickly. Every few months, the planet generates massive electrical storms that can disable ships and electronics. We need to find shelter immediately. As if to prove his point, lightning began striking the ground around them. But this wasn't normal lightning. It was blue-white energy that seemed to dance between the rocks. The Zephyrian ship systems began flickering and failing. Warning alarms sounded from all three vessels. Our ships are losing power, one of the pilots reported. We cannot take off in this storm. Commander Vex looked at Marcus with new attention. How long do these storms last? This looks like a big one, Marcus said, studying the sky. Maybe 3 or 4 days. Days? Vex's composure finally cracked. We cannot stay on this primitive world for days. Then you'll need to learn how to survive here, Marcus said calmly. And I'm the only one who knows how. The storm grew stronger. Energy arcs jumped between the grounded ships, forcing everyone to take shelter in the cave. Marcus quickly expanded the shelter using materials from the Zephyrian ships, showing the aliens how to create effective protection using simple techniques. As they huddled together waiting for the storm to pass, Lyrelei watched Marcus work. He moved with quiet efficiency, solving problems as they arose. When the cave grew cold, he built a heating system using reflected metal and body warmth. When their water supply ran low, he showed them how to collect and purify rainwater. How do you know all this? She asked. Human military training, Marcus replied. We're taught to survive in any environment with whatever materials we can find. Basic soldier skills. Commander Vex observed this with growing discomfort. His people's technology was far superior, but none of it worked in the electromagnetic storm. Meanwhile, the humans' simple techniques kept them warm, fed, and safe. Your methods are practical, Vex admitted reluctantly. Sometimes simple works better than complex, Marcus said, especially when complex systems fail. As the first day passed, the Zephyrians began to see Marcus differently. He wasn't a primitive savage. He was a competent soldier who adapted quickly to changing situations. When one of the Zephyrian medics fell ill from eating unfamiliar food, Marcus treated him successfully using local plants. How did you know those plants were medicinal? Lyra Lee asked. Colony botanists study everything, Marcus explained. We catalog what's safe, what's dangerous, and what's useful. Information saves lives. By the second day, the Zephyrians were asking Marcus for advice on everything from finding food to maintaining their equipment without power. His willingness to share knowledge freely surprised them. Why do you help us? Commander Vex asked. We are not your allies. Marcus looked around at the group. Alien beings who had been ready to kill him just days before, now depending on his skills for survival. Because we're all stuck here together, he said simply. And everyone deserves a chance to go home safely. Princess Lyra Lee smiled weakly. This human was teaching her something important about strength. It wasn't just about advanced weapons or technology. Sometimes the greatest strength was refusing to give up on others, even when they had given up on you. The storm raged on, but inside the cave, two very different species were beginning to understand each other. The third day of the electromagnetic storm brought new challenges. Princess Lyra Lee's condition had stabilized, but she was still weak from her injuries. The Zephyrian medics had done what they could with their limited power supplies, but their advanced equipment needed more energy than Marcus's simple shelters could provide. We need to conserve power, Marcus explained to Commander Vex. Your medical devices are draining the backup batteries too quickly. Vex looked frustrated. Without proper medical equipment, how can we treat the princess? Marcus studied Lyra Lee carefully. Her blue blood had stopped flowing from the wounds and her breathing was steady, but her color was still pale, and she seemed to have developed a fever. May I examine her? Marcus asked. Commander Vex stepped forward protectively. You are not qualified to— Let him, Lyra Lee said softly. His methods may be simple, but they work. Marcus checked her pulse and temperature using basic techniques. Her heart was beating too fast and her skin felt hot to the touch. I think she has an infection, he told the Zephyrian medics. The wounds might be getting worse. The lead medic, a female named Kira, ran a quick scan with her device. You are correct, but our antibiotics are not working. Her immune system is rejecting our treatments. Marcus thought for a moment. What if her body is fighting both the infection and your medicine? Sometimes immune systems get confused and attack everything. That is possible, Kira admitted, but without our medical databases we cannot determine the correct treatment. Maybe we don't need databases, Marcus said. Tell me about Zephyrian biology. How is it different from human biology? As Kira explained their species' medical needs, Marcus began to form an idea. Zephyrians had stronger immune systems than humans, but they were also more sensitive to chemical changes in their blood. What if we use natural treatments instead of synthetic ones? Marcus suggested. Something gentle that won't trigger her immune system. Primitive herbal remedies? Vex scoffed. Princess Lyra Lee needs advanced medicine, not plant soup. But Marcus was already gathering materials. He had noticed certain plants growing near the cave entrance, species that the colony botanists had identified as having anti-inflammatory properties. Kira, can your scanner tell you what these plants contain? Marcus asked. The medic scanned the leaves with interest. These contain compounds similar to our mild healing agents, but the concentrations are very low. Sometimes low is better, Marcus explained. Gentle treatment that works with the body instead of forcing it. He prepared a simple tea using the medicinal plants and clean water. Princess Lyra Lee drank it slowly, making a face at the bitter taste. It tastes terrible, she said. Good medicine usually does, Marcus replied with a small smile. Over the next several hours, Lyra Lee's fever began to break. Her color improved and she seemed stronger. The Zephyrian medics watched in amazement as their princess recovered, using what they considered primitive treatment. How did you know that would work? Kira asked Marcus. I didn't know for sure, Marcus admitted. But sometimes you have to try simple solutions when complex ones fail. Commander Vex had been quiet during this process, but now he approached Marcus. Sergeant, I owe you an apology. I believed humans were less capable than they are. We're just different, Marcus said. Your technology is incredible, but our training focuses on working with what we have available. Show me, Vex said suddenly. Teach me these survival methods. Marcus was surprised but pleased. He began showing the Zephyrians how to identify safe plants, how to purify water using simple filtration, and how to create tools from natural materials. The aliens were quick learners. and their advanced knowledge helped them understand the science behind Marcus's techniques. Your people study the molecular structure of everything, Vex observed as he examined a water filter Marcus had built. You understand the principles even without sophisticated instruments. We have to, Marcus explained. When you're stuck somewhere with limited supplies, understanding basic science can save your life. Princess Lyrelei watched these exchanges with growing fascination. She had been raised to believe that Zephyrians were superior in all ways, more intelligent, more advanced, more civilized. But Marcus was showing her that intelligence came in many forms. Marcus, she said, how long have humans been traveling in space? Only about 200 years, Marcus replied. We're still pretty new to all this. 200 years? Kira exclaimed. We have been spacefaring for over 3,000 years. Then you probably know things we haven't learned yet, Marcus said. And we might know things you've forgotten. This simple statement made the Zephyrians think. In their long history of advanced technology, had they lost some basic skills that humans still needed to survive? On the fourth day, the electromagnetic storm began to weaken. The Zephyrian ships started to regain power, and communication systems came back online. But before they could celebrate, a new problem arose. Contact from the colony, Marcus announced, listening to his communication device. They're reporting increased Razorwolf activity. The storm stirred them up and they're moving in large packs. Commander Vex checked his ship's sensors. I am detecting multiple life forms approaching this location. Large predators. Through the cave entrance, they could see movement in the forest. Dozens of razor wolves were surrounding their position, drawn by the scent of so many beings in one place. Our weapons are not fully recharged, Vex reported grimly. We cannot fight so many creatures. Marcus studied the situation carefully. The razor wolves were intelligent hunters. They would wait and test for weaknesses before attacking in force. We don't need to fight them, Marcus said. We need to make them go somewhere else. How? Princess Lyrelei asked. Marcus pointed to a ridge about half a mile away. See that rocky area? Razor wolves hate high open spaces. They prefer thick forest where they can hide. If we can make them think there's easier prey somewhere else, they'll leave us alone. He began gathering materials, metal from the ships, plants from the forest, and chemicals from the medical supplies. Working together, the humans and Zephyrians created a device that would produce sounds and smells, similar to a large herd of the creatures that razor wolves normally hunted. This is brilliant, Kira said as she helped calibrate the device. You are using the predator's own instincts against them. They placed the device on the ridge and activated it. Within an hour, the razor wolf pack had moved away from the cave, following what they thought was an easier meal. Incredible, Commander Vex said. You solved the problem without violence, using intelligence instead of force. Sometimes the best solution is the one that lets everyone walk away, Marcus replied. As the storm finally cleared and the ships prepared for departure, Princess Lyrelei felt sad to leave. These few days had taught her more about humans than years of diplomatic reports. Marcus, she said, when I return to my father's court, I will tell them what I learned here. What's that? Marcus asked. That strength is not just about having the best weapons or the most advanced technology, Lyrelei replied. Real strength is never giving up, no matter how difficult things become. And it is about helping others even when they are different from you. Commander Vex nodded in agreement. Perhaps our peoples have more to learn from each other than we realized. As the Zephyrian ships lifted off to return Princess Lyrelei to her home, Marcus watched them go with mixed feelings. He had started this adventure just trying to help an injured person. But somehow he felt like he had helped build a bridge between two species who had always viewed each other with suspicion. Little did he know that this was only the beginning of changes that would affect both their worlds. 3 weeks after Princess Lyrelei returned to the Zephyrian capital world, Marcus Chen found himself in the worst trouble of his military career. He sat in a sterile white room at Haven's Rest Command, facing a panel of stern-looking human officers. Sergeant Chen, said Colonel Martinez, the base commander, you are accused of unauthorized contact with enemy aliens, sharing classified survival techniques and endangering colonial security. How do you plead? Marcus straightened in his chair. With respect, sir, the Zephyrians are not our enemies. The peace treaty does not make them our friends, interrupted Major Thompson. You gave them detailed information about our survival methods and defensive tactics. I saved their princess's life, Marcus replied firmly. And they helped me protect our people from razor wolf attacks. Colonel Martinez frowned. The official report states that you were fraternizing with hostile aliens who could have been gathering intelligence. Marcus felt frustrated. His own command didn't understand what had really happened in that cave. They saw only potential security risks where he had seen an opportunity for understanding. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, Princess Lirelai faced similar problems in the crystal towers of the Zephyrian Imperial Palace. "Daughter," said Emperor Valdris, his golden robes shimmering in the artificial sunlight, "the council is concerned about your experience with the human soldier." Lirelai stood before her father's throne. Her injuries fully healed, but her mind changed forever. "Father, Sergeant Chen saved my life. He showed me that humans are not the primitive creatures we believed them to be." "That is precisely the problem," said Counselor Thex, an elderly Zephyrian with silver skin and cold eyes. "If word spreads that a human succeeded where our advanced medicine failed, it could undermine confidence in Zephyrian superiority." "But it is the truth," Lirelai protested. "His simple methods worked because he understood adaptation and cooperation." Emperor Valdris raised his hand for silence. "The truth can be dangerous, my daughter. Our empire is built on the belief that we are the most advanced species in the galaxy. Humans must remain in their proper place." Lirelai felt her heart sink. "So we will pretend none of this happened?" "You will not speak of it again," the Emperor commanded. "Commander Vex and his team have been ordered to classify the entire incident, but the universe had other plans for both species. On the edge of known space, long-range sensors detected something terrifying. Ships unlike anything ever seen before were moving through the void, destroying everything in their path. They were not interested in conquest or communication, only in complete annihilation. The first worlds to fall were remote mining colonies. Then the attack spread to more populated systems. Within days, both human and Zephyrian territories were under assault by an unknown enemy. Marcus was pulled from his disciplinary hearing when emergency alarms began sounding throughout Haven's Rest. "All personnel to battle stations," announced the base speakers. Unknown hostile vessels approaching the system. Colonel Martinez looked grim as he reviewed the incoming reports. "Sergeant Chen, despite your current situation, we need every experienced soldier. You're reinstated for combat duty." Marcus joined the defense preparations, but he felt a growing sense of dread as more reports came in. The enemy ships were unlike anything in human or Zephyrian databases. They seemed to absorb energy weapons and adapt to defensive strategies in real time. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Davis, "we just lost contact with the Proxima Defense Fleet. All 30 ships destroyed in less than an hour." Similar disasters were happening throughout Zephyrian space. Their most advanced warships and battle tactics proved useless against the mysterious invaders. The creatures, for they seemed to be living ships, rather than mechanical constructs, learned from every encounter and became stronger. "Princess." Lirelai watched the reports with growing horror. From the Imperial Palace. "Father, our greatest battle fleets are being destroyed." "What are these creatures?" "Unknown," admitted the Emperor. "They appear to be some form of space-dwelling life that consumes technology and grows stronger from it." The attacks continued for 72 hours. Human colonies fell. Zephyrian worlds went silent. The two species' most powerful weapons seemed only to feed the invaders' growth. Then Lirelai had a sudden realization. "Father," she said urgently, "we need to contact Sergeant Chen." Emperor Valdris looked at her as if she had lost her mind. "A human soldier? At a time like this? These creatures adapt to our advanced technology," Lirelai explained quickly. "But Marcus defeated problems using simple methods that confused our expectations. What if the same approach could work against these invaders?" Counselor Thex scoffed. "Impossible. If our greatest minds cannot solve this crisis, a primitive human certainly cannot." But as another fleet fell to the mysterious attackers, Emperor Valdris began to consider desperate options. On Haven's Rest, Marcus was studying the battle reports when an impossible thing happened. He received a direct communication from Princess Lirelai herself. "Marcus," her image appeared on his private screen, "I need your help." Colonel Martinez and the other officers gathered around in shock. A Zephyrian princess was requesting assistance from their disgraced sergeant. "Your Highness," Marcus said respectfully, What can I do? These invaders adapt to our technology, Lyrelai explained. They learn from our weapons and defenses. But you showed me that sometimes simple solutions work when complex ones fail. Marcus studied the tactical data she transmitted. The enemy seemed to be living creatures that fed on energy and evolved rapidly. They were like a virus that grew stronger with each exposure to advanced technology. You're right, Marcus said slowly. They're learning from your battles. Every time you use energy weapons or advanced shields, they develop immunity. Then how do we fight them? Asked Colonel Martinez. Marcus thought about his survival training, how humans adapted to environments by using available resources creatively. What if we don't try to overpower them? What if we confuse them instead? He began sketching ideas on the tactical display. These creatures expect advanced technology, but what if we use methods they've never encountered? Simple kinetic weapons, basic tactics, unpredictable strategies. Princess Lyrelai's eyes lit up with understanding, like how you use the Razor Wolf's instincts against them. Exactly, Marcus said. We make them think we're something we're not. Within hours, an unprecedented thing happened. For the first time in galactic history, human and Zephyrian military commanders were working together, sharing information and resources to develop a joint defense strategy. The plan was audacious in its simplicity. Instead of meeting the invaders with the most advanced weapons available, they would use mixed tactics that combined human creativity with Zephyrian technology in ways the creatures had never encountered. This is madness, said Counselor Vex, trusting human primitives with our most advanced ships. But Emperor Valdris had made his decision. Princess Lyrelai will lead a joint task force with Sergeant Chen as tactical advisor. If conventional methods have failed, perhaps unconventional ones will succeed. As the hastily assembled fleet prepared to launch, Marcus found himself aboard a Zephyrian command ship for the first time. The technology was beautiful and terrifying, but he focused on the mission ahead. Are you certain this will work? Princess Lyrelai asked him privately. No, Marcus admitted, but I'm certain that doing the same thing that's been failing won't work either. The joint human Zephyrian fleet moved toward their first encounter with the mysterious invaders, carrying the hopes of two species who had finally learned to work together when survival itself was at stake. The real test was about to begin. The joint human Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the embattled Kepler station. Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Zephyrian command ship Starlight Dawn, watching the tactical displays with Princess Lyrelai and Commander Vex. What they saw made his blood run cold. 12 massive organic ships hung in space like living nightmares. They pulsed with stolen energy, having consumed 3 human destroyers and 2 Zephyrian cruisers. The creatures had grown larger and more dangerous with each victory. They're beautiful and terrifying at the same time, whispered Lyrelai. Marcus studied the enemy formations. They're hunting in a pack, just like the Razor Wolves. They're intelligent. Our conventional weapons proved useless, reported Commander Vex grimly. Energy beams only make them stronger. Marcus nodded. Then we stick to the plan. Are the human ships ready? Captain Sarah Rodriguez's voice came through the communication system from the human flagship Determination. All human vessels armed with kinetic weapons and explosive charges. No energy weapons online. Zephyrian ships? Marcus asked. Shields configured for confusion tactics, replied Vex. Our energy signatures will shift randomly to prevent adaptation. Marcus took a deep breath. Everything depended on the creatures reacting the way he hoped they would. All ships begin Operation Confusion, Princess Lyrelai commanded. The battle began unlike any space combat in recorded history. Instead of the usual energy weapon exchanges, human ships fired simple metal projectiles and chemical explosives. The organic invaders, expecting to absorb energy attacks, found themselves damaged by crude kinetic impacts. But the creatures were learning fast. Enemy ships are adapting their hulls, reported the tactical officer. They're becoming harder and more resistant to kinetic weapons. Phase 2, Marcus called out. Mixed tactics now. This was the crucial moment. Human and Zephyrian ships began working in pairs, using combinations that had never been tried before. A human vessel would fire kinetic rounds while its Zephyrian partner used precisely timed energy bursts. The creatures couldn't adapt to both simultaneously. It's working, exclaimed Captain Rodriguez. We destroyed one of them. But the victory celebration was short-lived. The remaining creatures began to coordinate their attacks in new ways, seeming to communicate and share their adaptations. They're learning from each other, Marcus realized. We need to change tactics faster than they can adapt. Princess Lyrelei watched the battle unfold, seeing something remarkable. Human creativity and Zephyrian precision were creating possibilities that neither species could achieve alone. Marcus, what if we use the survival principles you taught us? Marcus understood immediately. Adaptation and cooperation. Commander Vex, can your ships share shield frequencies with the human vessels? Theoretically, yes, Vex replied. But our technologies are completely different. Different is good, Marcus said. The creatures expect technological consistency. If we mix incompatible systems, we'll be unpredictable. The next phase of the battle was chaos, but controlled chaos. Human and Zephyrian ships began linking their systems in impossible ways. Energy shields designed for one technology protected ships using completely different power sources. Weapon systems that should never work together created devastating combination attacks. The organic invaders, faced with technology that shouldn't exist, began to falter. Their adaptation abilities couldn't keep up with systems that defied logical development. Enemy formation breaking apart, reported the tactical officer. They're retreating. But Marcus wasn't satisfied with just driving them away. We need to understand them. Can we capture one? Princess Lyrelei looked at him in surprise. Capture one of those monsters? If they're truly intelligent, maybe we can communicate, Marcus explained. Fighting forever isn't a solution. Using the same combination tactics, they managed to disable the smallest of the retreating creatures. As the joint fleet surrounded it, Marcus requested permission to board the alien vessel. Absolutely not, said Commander Vex. Too dangerous. I'll go with him, Princess Lyrelei announced. Your Highness, you cannot, Vex protested. This is my mission, she said firmly. And Marcus has proven that sometimes the direct approach works best. Together, Marcus and Lyrelei entered the organic ship through a breach in its hull. Inside, they found something unexpected. Not a mindless monster, but a desperate survivor. The creature was dying, its biotechnological systems failing. Through careful gestures and simple mathematics drawn in the air, they managed to establish basic communication. The beings, it turned out, were refugees from a dying galaxy. They had been consuming technology not out of malice, but out of necessity. Their own civilization had been destroyed, and they needed energy to survive their journey to find a new home. They're not invaders, Marcus realized. They're refugees who don't know how to ask for help. Princess Lyrelei felt her heart break for the dying creature. We've been fighting them when we should have been trying to understand them. Working together, they managed to stabilize the creature's condition using a combination of human medical techniques and Zephyrian technology. When the being realized they were trying to help rather than harm, it began sharing its story through mathematical symbols and simple images. The revelation changed everything. Within days, the joint human-Zephyrian fleet had made contact with the remaining creatures. Instead of weapons, they brought food, energy supplies, and offers of sanctuary. The beings, grateful for the first kindness they had encountered in their long journey, agreed to stop their attacks and work toward peaceful coexistence. The crisis that had threatened to destroy both civilizations became the foundation for something unprecedented. A three-species alliance based on cooperation and understanding. Back at the Zephyrian Imperial Palace, Emperor Valdris faced a changed daughter. Father, Princess Lyrelei said, I request permission to establish a permanent joint defense force with the humans. And what makes you think this alliance will last? Asked Counselor Thex skeptically. Because we've learned that our differences make us stronger, not weaker, Lyrelei replied. Human adaptability combined with our technology created solutions neither species could develop alone. Emperor Valdris considered this carefully. The successful resolution of the crisis had impressed even the most skeptical counselors. Very well. You will serve as our ambassador to this new alliance. On Haven's Rest, Marcus faced his own life-changing moment. Sergeant Chen, said Colonel Martinez, you're being promoted to major and assigned as military liaison to the new interspecies defense force. Marcus smiled, thinking about how a simple rescue mission had led to the most important diplomatic breakthrough in galactic history. Months later, Marcus and Princess Lyrelei stood together on the bridge of humanity's first joint technology starship. The vessel combined human engineering with Zephyrian science, and even incorporated some biotechnology, gifted by their new refugee allies. "Do you ever regret that day when my ship crashed?" Lyrelai asked. Marcus looked out at the stars, where ships from 3 different species now traveled together in peace. "Not for a moment. Sometimes the best discoveries come from the most unexpected circumstances. And sometimes," Lyrelai added, "the greatest strength comes from refusing to give up on others, even when they seem completely different from you." The interspecies defense force grew rapidly, attracting volunteers from all 3 civilizations. They became explorers and peacekeepers, using their combined strengths to help other species facing similar challenges throughout the galaxy. The simple mistake that brought a human soldier and an alien princess together had indeed changed everything, not just for them, but for countless worlds across the stars. Marcus Chen had started as a garrison soldier on a quiet colony world. Now he was helping to build a future where differences were celebrated as sources of strength, rather than feared as threats. And it all began with the basic human belief that everyone deserves help when they need it, regardless of who they are or where they come from. In the end, that simple principle proved to be the most powerful force in the universe.